And welcome again to Cottage Talk. I am Russ Goldman. In this episode, I will be looking back at Fulham's victory against Wolves. This is our post-match show. I'm flying solo tonight, and I will be here to answer any questions, comments that you have for me. If you're watching live, feel free to share who was your man of the match and anything else you want to share, and I'd be happy to share it during the show. I do want to mention that we are live on YouTube. Please do subscribe and like this episode on YouTube. I would really much appreciate it. We're trying to get the numbers up on YouTube. So that would be a great assistance if you could subscribe and like this episode. Okay, very good. All right. So, like I mentioned, I'll be doing the show for probably about a half hour to 45 minutes. We did a full time episode, which I hope you had a chance to watch. Me and Tony Gold did this right after the match and gave our initial reaction. Well, today I'm going to go a little bit deeper. And like I mentioned, I'll be going through the match, go through both halves. I'll be going through my section of the good, the bad, and who won the coaching battle. I think it's pretty obvious who won the coaching battle. And we'll end with man of the match. But let's get started. And let's start with my opening thoughts. And nothing really has changed since last night. I was very impressed with Fulham's performance. I knew I would get a reaction. I knew we all would see a reaction, but I wasn't expecting what I saw here. First of all, I wasn't expecting Marco to play three at the back, but maybe that was stupid of me because of how Wolves played, that maybe he might match up, and that's exactly what he did. I'll be talking about that when we go through the good, the bad, and who won the coaching battle, because Marco did an exceptional job setting his team up for success. And that's really what a manager is supposed to do. Get the most out of his players, but put them in the best position to succeed. Guess what? Marco did this. And even though I looked at the starting 11 and was questioning it, he got it right. His plan A is really good. Let's call it what it is. It's when he tries to come up with a plan B or does not have one that maybe is not as strong as his plan A. So maybe I get why he sticks with that for such a long period of time, because generally speaking, when he gets his tactics right, it does work. And it definitely worked here. But what's interesting here is that once the match went on, the one thing that I thought might go to Fulham's advantage is if they could be even or ahead at the half. I had a feeling that they could pull off this victory because Wolves went with an unchanged side and Fulham made several changes. And when I looked at Fulham's bench, I thought Marco really has a chance to change things up, like for like, but really has a chance to freshen up the team in the second half against a team that might be a little bit tired. And I think that's exactly what we ended up seeing at Molyneux. Fulham were by far the better team. They deserved all 3 points. They absolutely did. And anyone that thinks otherwise, well, maybe they're a Wolves supporter. I get that. Maybe you're surprised by what you saw. Maybe your manager was surprised because I don't think he saw it coming that Marco was going to play three at the back. So maybe that was a little bit of a change that worked in Fulham's favor. So just a wonderful victory for Fulham Football Club. And like I mentioned, I am still living on cloud nine from that victory. It's been this roller coaster ride throughout the entire season. And here's a question I have for everyone listening. I plan on doing a show about this upcoming. The last 3 seasons in the Premier League, which team has been the best? This team right now has a chance to be the best out of the 3, which is pretty phenomenal. The team with Mitro was very good. Then the team last season fell back a little bit, but it was a good team. But the team this season, without Paulinho, without Mitro, might be the best out of the 3. And that's what's fascinating. But we're on this up and down slide. We go up and down like a roller coaster. It's been fun. I just wish, as I said to Tony last night, we had a little bit more consistency, because I think that's what we're lacking a little bit. Maybe the difference of why we're not further up the table than maybe we should. Maybe it just comes down to consistency. Tony seems to think it deals with a collective defensive unit that is stronger than it really is at this point. He could be right too. We've also talked about not having that prolific striker. Maybe it's a combination of all of this. But the one thing that I do know that they're in the mix for Europe. And this match just keeps them in that mix. They might not get there, but I think this might go down all the way to the wire with Fulham contending for a European spot. And that's a really good thing. Okay. So let's move on and let's go to my section I call the good, the bad, and who won the coaching battle. So there's a lot of good here. There's an exceptionally lot of good. Let's start with Ryan Sessegnon. So I actually did this on an episode that's on the Patreon page, okay? So it was one of my takeaways, and it's this. Ryan Sessegnon has something to offer Fulham the rest of the season. So he is in the good category. Not only did he score the goal, showed his ability, but I thought he was active throughout the match, and it was good to see. He can fill in for Jedi. I have confidence if he was to play left back. He played left wing back here, and I thought was very effective in that position. But I think he can also be a winger. It's good to see that Sessegnon, I'm not saying that he's back to the old Sessegnon, but it's taken a while for him to get a chance to really grow into the season, and now we're starting to see it. If you watched him at the beginning of the season, you see him now, you're starting to see a player growing in confidence and still has that magic, that ability. It's still there. It was on display at Molineux. It's a great thing. So that's why I'm definitely putting Ryan Sessegnon in the good category. Now, the person I'm putting in the good category has to be Rodrigo Muniz. He was excellent in this match. His hold-up play was tremendous, scores the goal, is integral in setting up the first goal. So what's interesting here, we've talked so many times on Cottage Talk about Fulham needing a prolific striker. They have two good strikers that I think complement each other in Muniz and Jimenez. Usually it's Jimenez that starts, but I do like this decision by Marco to start Muniz. And I think part of it had to do with the formation change, the way the match was going to go. And I got to tell you, it worked. And this kid worked really hard, growing in confidence. Every time I want to say people start to doubt him, he starts to prove them wrong. And I love players that continue to improve. And I don't think we've seen the best of Rodrigo Muniz. Will he be a prolific striker? I don't know. Only time will tell. But he certainly has helped Fulham Football Club the past 2 seasons a tremendous amount. And he deserves credit in this match. He was a difference maker. There's no question about it. Another addition to the good category has to be the subs. The subs for me were key in this match. Absolutely, the subs made a difference because I think without the substitutions in the second half, Fulham might not see this match out. So I'm calling out the subs right now. And what Marco did, he didn't do it all at the same time. You had 5 different subs. I'll tell you the subs that I thought made the biggest difference, and that was Jedi, Iwobi, and Willian. Willian gave Fulham that leadership that I think they desperately need on the pitch. I think at times they miss that type of leadership. Now I think I understand why Willian is back with Fulham Football Club. It's not just his ability, but it's also his leadership. And he showed that so calm. Against a team that is trying to get the equalizer, he was as cool as a cucumber. That's how good Willian was in his performance, just being able to calm the team down. And then you have Iwobi on the other side, who I think has struggled a little bit because he's played so much, but he looked fresh coming off the bench. Then you have Jedi coming on, and I thought Jedi did a very good job. Again, you're going against a team with tired legs, and you're adding him to the mix, I think just helped Fulham, especially in the second half. Later on, you have Jimenez coming on for Muniz. Now, Jimenez should have scored. Let's call it what it is. But again, he still had a job to do, lead that line, and I thought he did it. He just should have scored. And then at the very end, you have Bassi coming on. And the one thing I will say, I actually thought Cuenca played very well. I know that there are people out there that don't feel that he played very well, but I actually thought he did. So maybe I thought it was a little bit harsh taking him off, but maybe it was a fitness issue and Marco wanted to get Bassi into the game. And of course, you don't really lose anything. You lose nothing when you bring Calvin Bassi into the game. But in the good category, this change, I think, was the solidifier for Fulham's victory, the subs in that second half. So that's why they go in the good category. It's going to be difficult not to find much good in this match. But now let's go to the bad. There's one bad thing that has come out of this match. I think a lot of Fulham supporters probably know where I'm going to go on this. And that's Sasa Lukic getting a yellow card. And it was a silly foul. But the one thing that I will say, and we talked about this on Full Time, someone commented that, I'm paraphrasing because I don't have the comment up, that maybe, just maybe, the fact that it happens now, it was going to happen at some point, he will now be able to play with freedom because he was probably playing a little bit cautious because he knew that he might get that next yellow card. That might be true. He's going to be missing two massive matches, two league matches against Brighton, Hove Albion, and Tottenham. That's going to hurt Fulham. But if you think about it, he's going to be available for many matches after that I think will be vital for Fulham, and they're going to need him. So maybe the timing isn't as bad as you think. And the good thing is that he'll be able to play with freedom for the rest of the season. I think that's basically a good thing to come out of this. It's hard, the fact that he's going to be out for a couple of matches. I have a feeling we will see Andres Pereira come and play that role. And, it's not a role that I really like him in, that number 8 role, but maybe, who knows, maybe we'll see Iwobi play that role. But that's the one bad that I have coming out of this match was the situation with Sasa Lukic. It's unfortunate that it happened, but listen, it does happen. Absolutely, these situations happen. But now it's out of the way. Now we can move on. All right. So now let's go to who won the coaching battle. And I think this is an obvious one. Marco won the coaching battle. I actually think he really caught the Wolves manager off guard by his decision with his starting 11 and his formation. I don't think they were prepared for that. I could be wrong, but I think that they were preparing for Fulham's usual formation. Instead, they got 3 at the back. So there had to be some kind of adjustment there. So Marco's plan with that was great. The players, I thought, really executed his plan. The first half, not as good as in the second half. I think in the second half, it really started to come together. In the first half, it looked a little shaky, but in the second half, it was much better with those 3 at the back. I also want to give Anderson some credit. We've talked a lot about him. We've given him some stick when he's been bad. Well, he was good in this match. I'll also put him in the good category. He deserves to be there as well, along with Cuenca. I keep giving good in there, so why not talk about those two center backs, because they were definitely good in this match. But the setup was right. The plan was right. But another thing that I always talk about is the substitutions and when the substitutions were made. And Marco pulled all the right levers. I truly believe part of his plan was to bring on these substitutes. I don't think he just thought about that when they got to the second half. I think this was premeditated before the match began. In all honesty, I think this match was won before it even began, meaning the game plan. Then it was about executing the game plan. Marco really outcoached the Wolves coach here. No question about it. He deserves a lot of credit. I was hard on him after the last match. I think it was well-deserved. And I think this is well-deserved positively because he won the coaching battle big time. Okay. So now it's time to go and talk about the starting 11. So, got to be honest with you, when I saw the starting 11, I was not sure about how this was going to work. I was thinking, why is he making so many changes? Is this about the FA Cup match? Does he have one eye on the FA Cup match? And now, 24 hours later, I actually think he intended to do this partially because of the opponent. Maybe he was giving some players a rest, but I think the opponent had a lot to do with it. So at the time when I saw this, I was doubting it. I really was. I'm not going to tell you that, yes, this is a great lineup. I had my doubts, but then I was thinking at the time, and I think many Fulham supporters can attest to this. How many times have you looked at a starting 11 that he's made dramatic changes to and said, oh no, this isn't going to work? And then it's worked. This is another one of those that makes you scratch your head. But then the match is over and you think, Marco got this one right. And he absolutely did. And I want to give his coaching staff credit too, because they're a part of the decisions. They give him the advice, and this is what they went with. And it really worked. And it was very impressive. But at the time, I was not sure that this was going to work. But the one thing that I did notice, and I already have said this, that bench looked extremely strong, and I thought it could change the match, and that ended up being key. So for me, he absolutely got the starting 11 right, even though I doubted it when I saw it 75 minutes before the match began. Marco was right. Russ Goldman, wrong again. Okay. Coming up next, we're going to break down both halves, and I'm going to end with man of the match. Okay, we are back on Cottage Talk for the second half of the show. Like I mentioned, this is going to be about a half-hour show, post-match show. But before I go ahead and break down both halves of football, and if you're watching live, please feel free to share any comments you have. I'm going to share a couple comments from the Fulham supporters. And this is from my friend Steve Reynolds. He says, Lukic will have 9 games left. Will he hit the magic 15? I don't think so, Steve, but hey, you never know. But I'm confident that we're still going to get the most out of him, and I look forward to him coming back. But he will be inserted in the FA Cup, which is going to be key as well. Steve also says Muniz up front and Joachim is better in a I'm sorry, cannot make out this this one, so we're gonna have to move on. Sorry, Steve, I can't make up that comment, but let's move on in the show and let's talk about the first half. So let's go to my first half analysis, and we'll start with where it all began. And if you listen to any Wolves shows, they're going to talk about how they blew it, how they gave up 2 early goals, 1 in each half. And I totally agree with that. I agree with that assessment 100%. But you know what? Fulham had to score those goals. And the first goal from Cess, what a great goal this was. And it was, I believe, under a minute into the match. You get Anderson getting the ball up to Muniz. He then gets it to Andreas Pereira, who sets up Sessegnon one-on-one with the goalkeeper and beats the goalkeeper to give Fulham the early lead, and I screamed. I didn't see that coming. Fantastic goal from Ryan Sessegnon. Showed his ability. Looked like the Sessegnon of 2018. Unbelievable. I will say, watching the match, when you see the replay, it was very close. And there's been a lot of complaining from the Wolves supporters that they didn't draw the lines. No, they didn't draw the lines, but obviously a decision was made here. And I'm going to go with the fact that it was the right decision. When it goes to VAR, you're always worried, but it went Fulham's way. It had to have been the right decision. So the goal counts. So right after that, you are expecting a reaction from Wolves, and we got one. And I got to be honest with you, for probably the majority of the half, Wolves were the better team. I can give that to them. They were the better team. They were pushing for that goal. I think Fulham were still in the process of figuring out their formation, how it all worked, because they don't generally play a lot of matches with three at the back. It did look a little shaky. As I said to Tony Gold, when I was watching the match, when they got close to the box, I was getting nervous. I felt that that goal could be coming. And unfortunately, it ended up coming. But this was a preventable goal. But it was a goal that, if I look back at it now, was probably deserved based on the play from Wolves. They were, like I said, on the front foot for the majority of that half, and they finally got their goal. And then we're at 1-1. And then I'm thinking, okay, Fulham need to see this half out. Like I said, if they're even or ahead, I thought Fulham would be in really good shape going in to the second half. That was the way I was approaching this. So as the half goes on, they're creating a few more opportunities, but Fulham actually did as well. You had the one, obviously, from Adama Traore, and you had a few moments, but nothing obviously led to a goal. Obviously, we end the half at 1-1, and I'm thinking, okay, we've got the second half to go. As I mentioned earlier in the show, for me, I thought if Fulham were even, we had a very good chance to win. I predicted 2-1. Yes, I'm going to mention that again. And I'm going to mention my conversation with Tony Gold at halftime, because I told him this, that I thought we still had a very good chance to win this match. I said it because I thought against tired legs, Marco could change it. And if we could just get another goal, we could win it. And I'm not Nostradamus, but I ended up getting that one right, because I could just tell by the decisions that Marco could make, and also by the fact that they were playing against an unchanged side, that the advantage would go to us going in the second half. Could they start the second half strong? That was going to be the key. Could they do that? Because we've seen this so many times from Fulham Football Club, that they have a second half that starts very slow. Well, not here. Again, just like the first half, almost a carbon copy. You have a strong start of the second half, and guess who scores? It's Rodrigo Muniz, set up by Adama Traore. Fantastic pass. And what a great goal from Rodrigo Muniz. He deserves so much credit, playing with a bunch of confidence. And Fulham now go up 2-1. And now they have the platform to sit back, soak up pressure, and hold on to win this match, and show that they can really be tough to beat defensively. However, I will say this. After that goal, right after the goal, Muniz had another chance to score. So I don't think that they were completely settling in yet. I think they were trying to get that third goal. And I thought they were always going to try to beat this team on the break. So as the half continued, you had the opportunity from Cunha about 4 or 5 minutes later. But beyond that, ask yourself, what did Cunha offer Wolves in the second half? I'm going to tell you, not that much. And Fulham have a lot to do with that. They deserve a lot of credit keeping that player quiet, because that player is extremely dangerous, and he was quiet in the second half. So defensively, the Fulham players deserve so much credit doing a job on him, taking him away. That's another takeaway from this match, is the job they did on Cunha. Phenomenal job. Really, just an incredible job. So as we get into that second half, like I said, I go back to it. The substitutes, when they came on, made such a difference. And even though you have players that played very well, we're talking about Sessegnon, Muniz, these players played very well. The substitutes that came on made a difference. They absolutely made a difference. And of course, yet took Lukic off, which was probably a smart move as well. But Pereira, Muniz, Bassey, all 5 of them did their job. Jedi was, I thought, very good, very dangerous on the break. And again, I truly believe this is part of Marco's plan. If they could get ahead, and they were ahead, and they could sit back, be resolute defensively, and try to beat this team on the break. And that's exactly what they did. And I heard the commentators saying at one point that Wolves had 90% possession. Well, possession means nothing unless you can do something with it. And they could do squat in the second half. Fulham deserve all the credit for that. And then, of course, when Jimenez comes on, like I mentioned, you could see the tired legs near the end of this match. And Fulham had some wonderful chances to score to put this match away. You had 2 by Jimenez. He should have scored. Then you had the 1 by Pereira. So they were creating opportunities to end this match. And I'm going to just say it one more time. A key contributor in the second half was Willian. That calmness was a difference in, I think, Fulham getting the victory. The leader, he was a leader seeing this match out for Fulham Football Club. Just a tremendous victory for Fulham that well-deserved after that last match against Crystal Palace. What a bounce back we got in this match. Just an incredible victory. And we should all be happy. We should all be looking forward now to the FA Cup, and I know I am. But before we go to man of the match to end this episode, I'll just share a couple more thoughts about how Fulham saw this match out. Like I said, what I watched at the end of the match was a team difficult to beat defensively and was still creating opportunities on the break. And to me, I'm not saying that it was perfect, but it was pretty good to see that match out. They were strong defensively, and they were dangerous going forward whenever they had that chance. And I don't think Wolves had any answers. They brought on a few players. They really didn't offer that much to change what was going on with Fulham. They really didn't. And I think a lot had to do with Fulham taking away Cunha. You take him away, that's not the same team. They can add other players. I'm not saying that they're a one-man show, but they are in many ways similar to how Fulham were with Mitro. It was all about Mitro for a few seasons. I think it's all about Cunha for this team, okay? You take him out of it, they're a different team. Fulham, it's different because it's about the sum of the parts. And I think in the end, the sum of the parts beat the one-star player. Think about that. It really was a team victory. Okay. Well, listen, to end this episode, I'm going to go to man of the match. But before I do, I'm going to share a couple of comments. If you got a thought about who was man of the match, please feel free to share it. Let's see what Paul shares here. Marco is a god. Okay, we'll give that to you. Ross shares this. Pereira was very good, but must start ahead of ESR. Okay, well, we'll see what he decides to do. Ross follows that up with man of the match. Muniz worked hard and scored a gem of a goal. Totally agree on that. All right, as I did on the full-time show, I'm going to tell you my man of the match was Rodrigo Muniz. That's my man of the match. But I've already given you the good category, and there are several players that I can add in the good category. But man of the match for me is Rodrigo Muniz. But I can also say, and I'm going to say this, and Tony's gotten a lot of stick for this, but I'm going to put Anderson as an honorable mention. I thought he was good in this system. Emma says Muniz, man of the match as well. There were some really good performances here, but this wasn't a match where Fulham were going to show themselves going forward. It was more to do with defensively sound and beating this team when they got their opportunities, being lethal. And they were lethal at times, obviously, at the beginning of both halves, and they knocked the stuffing out of this team. I don't think that this team was ready for what Fulham were going to do. They didn't react well to it. And that's why you have a Fulham victory. It's a combination of a lot of things. But this has to do with Fulham more than it has to do with Wolves, even though they'll probably be complaining about VAR. complaining about their team. In the end, this win has a lot more to do with Fulham than it does have to do with Wolves losing. That's just how I feel about that. Okay. Well, listen, that's going to do it for this episode of Cottage Talk. As always, if you can, please do subscribe and like this episode on YouTube. I would highly appreciate it. And also, please do check out the Cottage Talk Patreon page. Okay. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. My name's Russ Goldman. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk, part of the Talk Sport Fan Network.